This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. It's time to react to y'all hot takes. It's been a couple weeks. I let them build up. Let's see what y'all been saying in that comment section. Let's dig into it. First video we're going to look at was my mock draft scenario where I looked at the Browns potentially having the #1 overall pick. This was an interesting comment from How to Live. Says, no one is really going to say it, but would you be interested in giving Malik Willis a go? I am interested in turning over every stone for the Cleveland Browns quarterback position. Hey, if you want to give Daniel Jones a try, okay, I'll consider it. Like, I'm not turning my nose up at any solution to the Cleveland Browns quarterback position because we just ain't in that spot, bro. Like, our alternative is start Deshaun Watson. So, yeah, I would give Malik Willis a go. Yeah, let's see what we could do with Daniel Jones, right? Like, what options are out there? You got to be open to consider every single one. If you're the Browns, you can't leave any stone unturned in the draft or in free agency. You got to consider everything, right? There's no room for, Malik Willis, not even thinking about it, right? You got to just turn over every stone and consider everything, right? So, yeah, I would like the Browns to consider that. That doesn't mean I think the Browns should do that, but consider it, right? Consider different ways you can have success with the quarterback like that. Like, maybe we want to run more. Like I said, Malik Willis is a great runner. Might be what you want to do. Tons of things to think about there. All right, Kenny says, at the 348 mark, Q, I don't know if the best edge rushers won a championship yet, but Chris Jones and Aaron Donald have won a championship. I'm taking Mason Graham. Okay. Here's the thing about what you just said. Who played quarterbacks for those two championship teams? Right? You said Chris Jones, who plays on the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know who quarterbacks them. And Aaron Donald, who won the Super Bowl with Matt Stafford. I mean, you could easily point to their edge rushers and say, well, their edge rushers also won them a championship. It's not like the Rams were out here being carried to the Super Bowl with just Aaron Donald, right, before they got a quarterback. So I don't know. Like, I don't think an edge rusher or a defensive tackle is going to carry you to the playoffs. I think you want to build the strongest room possible. And my whole thing is that Abdul Carter just has more upside than Mason Graham does. That doesn't mean Mason Graham's a bad player. It's just like Abdul Carter's upside is amazing. This was a funny one. This is on my video about Brock Purdy and how, Brock Purdy's potential availability could be a domino that knocks over a ton of things for the Cleveland Browns and opens up other players that we aren't thinking about being open. And the top comment on this video was about Baker Mayfield. Some of y'all got Baker on the brain. Can't believe we're talking about all these guys when we had Baker and let him go. That got 85 replies. That was a statement there. People had a lot of things to say about good and bad. Here's the thing about, like, we should have kept Baker stuff. Who knows how it would have worked out if we stuck with Baker, right? Like, does he get the maturity that he said himself he needed, that he got by being cut by the Panthers? Does that give him the same kick in the butt that he got there staying with Cleveland? I don't know. Is that what he needed on his personal journey to be where he is today? I don't know. And also another thing to consider, dog, even if Baker was able to get to where he is right now with the Browns, would that be enough to put the Browns past the Ravens? Would that be enough to put the Browns past the Chiefs? Or would we be knocking ourselves up against the same ceiling that we have been up against this whole time? I think the conversation stops there because we would just want the Browns to have a playoff-ready season, but we had a playoff season last year, right? Like, so, yeah, you could have kept Baker. Yeah, you would feel a little bit better right now. But in a month, would you feel better? And then if you want to play the what about game with Baker Mayfield, then you can logically take this to its next step, which is, well, should you have even drafted Baker Mayfield number 1 overall in 2018? Should you have drafted Josh Allen? Should you have drafted Lamar Jackson? Which then goes into the what about game about, well, would they have developed in Cleveland and would they have been fine here and all of that. All I'm saying is that living in the past is just useless. You can't change it. They got rid of Baker Mayfield. They traded for Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was a huge lemon. That's where we are. We can't change it. Begging, we're not gonna baby come back Baker Mayfield to the Cleveland Browns. Like, no matter how much y'all beg. So it's more about, to me at least, figuring out where the Browns can go going forward to get to a better place, more so than, lamenting about things that didn't go our way. There's a bunch of stuff that don't go our way. You got to deal with the cards that you dealt. And Baker's not in that deck anymore. So you got to work with a different hand. Can't stay obsessed with the past. Should the Browns draft Shador Sanders? Deion will clash with any other head coach or quarterback coach. I see Deion calling all the shots for his kids. The Browns don't need more drama. We have enough now as it is. What drama do the Browns have right now? Like, this is not a very dramatic team. It's just a shitty team. No way. Besides, we already have a skittish run for your life quarterback. We need someone who, okay, all right. We can't. You said he reminds you of DTR? And this brings me to why it's like ultimately a very frustrating experience to try to talk about Shador Sanders in this draft class, because this is usually what we get when it comes to Shador Sanders, right? Like the kind of talking points. Will Deion call some of the shots for his kids? Maybe. He's definitely been involved in the past. Like, I want to underestimate Deion's will to want to coach his kid in the pros, or Deion, wanting to have some level of control or input. Like, yeah, he's a dad. He's a very famous dad. He has more leverage than most dads, and he might be able to get some leverage there. But who's to say that's a bad thing? Like, we kind of assume it's a bad thing, but it's not like LeVar Ball trying to make coaching decisions for the Lakers when he's not qualified to do so. Deion Sanders is not unqualified. Now, that doesn't mean he should be your head coach, but if he has a suggestion, you should hear him out. It's not all bad there, like that he has a dad that's willing to look out for him. I bet that happens with coaches' kids that make it to the NFL all the time. So, like, I don't know if we should just assume that the Deion factor is going to be nefarious. And I've fallen into that trap before. As far as like comparing him to DTR, nah, man, come on. That's ridiculous. Like, Shador is a little bit more talented than DTR. Like, they're not similar at all. I can't see it. Like, did Shador Sanders, is he a little skittish in the pocket? Sure. But I also pulled like 10, 20 clips where he was standing in the pocket well, especially when he's working over the middle of the field. He has things that you have to coach up, right? DTR, and like, they're just so far away from each other skill set wise. So, I think that's a bad read on the whole situation. And kind of like, not trying to roast you, Scott, but kind of just an example of why it sucks talking about Shador Sanders this draft cycle, because you have to explain to folk, in my opinion, that he's a bad value in the top 5. But that doesn't mean he's a bad prospect. It's just the bang for your buck for somebody like Abdul Carter is so much higher than what it can be for Shador Sanders, who is not an amazing prospect at the quarterback position. But you know how it is these days, where if you don't think something's the greatest, you're a hater. But if you don't think something's the worst, you are a glazer, or whatever the hell people be saying these days. And it's impossible to occupy a fairly neutral place on a prospect, because everybody feels like they need to have the most extreme opinion about Shador, when I don't think Shador warrants having that extreme of an opinion about, because a lot of things that come attached with them
could be good, could be bad, but ultimately are very hard to determine right now. Hey, that's kind of my take on that. But that's it for the hot takes. I want to thank y'all for dropping these hot takes in the comment section, even the ones I disagree with. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.